You are watching the incredible Berries Blue. I'm Sonia, the super talented lead vocalist, and that guy over there rocking the guitar is Eric, my boyfriend. He's also our composer and backing vocalist. Yep, my man's good at everything, just like me. Actually, he's the one who discovered my vocal talent and helped me on my road to fame. Our debut album exploded onto the charts. And the rest is history. Eric asked me to be his girlfriend right on stage after our set. I don't know who was more excited, me or my adoring fans. Everything was perfect. And then our next album flopped. I guess all that pressure had interrupted Eric's writing process. I tried to send him positive energy. We had a big show coming up to debut our new single and start our comeback. Who knows when the sun will rise again, right? But during our performance, as Eric stepped back to give me the spotlight, I stepped forward and suddenly slipped and fell.
Sonia, your nose! It's crooked!
I was rushed into surgery, but my nose looked like a lightning bolt. I can't look like this. I must be beautiful.
You'll always be the cutest girl to me. No need to worry. We can still fix it.
But right after that, the photo of my busted nose hit the headlines. I got ridiculed for praising natural beauty and then getting plastic surgery. What vultures! I had to upload the video of me slipping to end these rumors, but they claimed I did it on purpose to get attention. What on earth? We thought all that drama was finally over, but no. Right when my nose healed, my chubby, pre-puberty secondary school photo appeared all over the internet, which sparked rumors about me having my whole body reconstructed. Some anonymous posts even made up that I was hot-tempered and snooty to band crew and waiting staff. I mean, maybe I could be a bit abrupt, but I was famous, so I was allowed to get what I wanted. Then, Let's Cancel Sonia began to circulate. Do these tragic people have nothing better to do than gossip about me? But my fans took notice, and a load of our tour tickets got canceled. My manager freaked out and made me go on leave until the rumors died down. How ridiculous! Worse still, they were actually going to try to replace me? The beautiful, one-of-a-kind lead vocalist? How dare they do this to me? I am the band!
Hang in there, babe. I promise I'll find a way to get you back.
Obviously, my photos didn't leak themselves. Some jerk did this, and it's now my life mission to track them down and make them pay. Okay, so from my internet searching, I traced the original rumor to this group of my anti-fans. Can you believe they actually met up at this cafe once a month just to badmouth me? They even had a schedule. How ridiculous! What had I ever done to them? Disguising myself, I showed up to find out more clues. Inside were those terrible leaked pictures of me. Jeez, these people clearly had way too much time on their hands. Wait, this guy looks familiar. Is he Owen, my high school crush? He was my senior in the music club and a super talented singer, guitarist, and composer. But how come he's my anti-fan? I never even spoke to him. The group buzzed about how pretentious I am. They even said Eric and I were fake dating just to cover up the news about our latest album flop. Ahem. Obviously, our love is real.
I never tire of hearing trash talking about that Eric guy's songs. But it's closing time. If you posted about Berries Blue, please claim your money from the counter before leaving.
What? Owen actually paid them to slander my band? Why was he so intent on ruining my career? Did he have a personal vendetta against me? I just had to find my own way to figure all this out. Making myself one of them should do it. I immediately called to apply for the job. And I got it. Showtime! It's important to look the part, so I dressed up as this innocent-looking girl for my first shift. Thanks to the magic of makeup, even I could hardly recognize myself. Call me Summer from now on. After the introduction, Owen immediately gave me tons of work. I had to do the heavy lifting and stinky, dirty work. I was a pampered star, not a grunt. Ugh, he's such an exploitive boss. I must have been crazy to have ever crushed on him. In the evening, the anti-fan group showed up again, followed by a familiar face. It's Rena? Owen's little sister. Back in high school, she was quite arrogant. It seemed like nothing had changed. Did you know that Sonia was such a weirdo in high school? Now that she's famous, she's acting like she's above everyone else. Stop right there, carrot hair. What's your name?
I'm Summer?
So, Summer, here we've got a special requirement for every newbie. You have to pass the anti-fan test. Tell us, what do you think's the most irritating thing about Sonia?
Ugh, now I have to defame myself?
Actually, I was Sonia's childhood friend. Well, just a neighbor. She was the worst kid in the neighborhood. What did Sonia look like when she was young? And how was her personality? She was chubby and cruel to other kids. She threw bugs at them and never shared her toys. Take notes, guys. Remember to cite the source as Sonia's close neighbor. You can get some bonus, too, for contributing useful information like this. Was Rena also involved in this, along with her brother? When Rena left, the other anti-fans, Caleb, Violet, and June, still didn't leave, but turned to the stage and started tuning the instruments? What? They'd composed a whole song to mock me, not only about my surgery rumors, but also that I was a vain, hot-tempered, competitive, talentless, disrespectful, and never used my abundant money to help others. Their music was good, but the insolence killed their skills. I'm curious, why do people hate Sonia that much? She's rude and her music sucks. Yeah, her natural voice is good, but it doesn't have any emotions. She probably doesn't know anything about love, and doesn't have any friends either. Those comments from the anti-fans got me thinking. I suppose I do find it hard to open up to people, and I can be a bit hot-headed sometimes, but am I really that unlikable? Not the nose again, please! Huh? Owen? First you break the cups, now you're wasting sugar. Sugar? Seriously? Aren't you even going to ask if I'm hurt? If I leave here with just a scratch, this place will be finished, you know. This place was fine until you showed up. At least, Summer, you should learn how to apologize and thank. Suddenly, the anti-fans' words echoed in my head. As Summer, Owen still saw how much of a diva I was. That means, as Sonia, I must have been so despicable. I'm sorry. I should have thanked you for helping me. That's okay. I'm glad you're not hurt. Don't forget Rena's reward at the counter. Take it before you go. Why do you have to pay others to badmouth Sonia? I'm only going along with all this for my sister, but it brings more customers in, so whatever. So the person behind this is Rena? I don't think so. Someone must be pulling her strings. But who? I don't know. Why are you so concerned, Summer? I was just curious. I used to think badly about Owen, but beneath his cold front, he's kind of sweet and caring. Just like years ago. I was trying to escape the rain and bumped into him. He saved me from falling. Didn't care how sweaty I was, and even gave me his umbrella. But in front of my crush, I was too shy and embarrassed to say anything and hurried off. Since then, I didn't feel so uncomfortable hearing the anti-fans slate me and our band's decline. It was almost all true anyway. At least this way, I could learn from my past mistakes and become a way better person. Flowers grow in the strangest of places, right? Yeah. These anti-fans actually became my friends. Playing with them was way more fun than with the berries somehow. Okay guys, you need to share your music with the world. So, I signed up our budding band for a local music competition. Well, what? But we're not professionals. Do you really think we can win? Who cares? I always wanted to perform on a big stage. But what are we gonna play? Use one of my songs if you want. I hear the payout is pretty good. Ooh, I love your songs! We practiced together every night, and everyone was so focused on this, they didn't post bad rumors about me anymore. Owen is truly a genius. Listening to him playing his intros always gave me goosebumps. And so, the image of a cute, talented Owen reappeared in my mind. Oh no, wake up, Sonia, you already have a boyfriend! Eric? Speaking of Eric, he's been ignoring all of my calls. I get it, he's busy rehearsing for the show, but didn't he promise to find a way to bring me back? Oh, I see. You're too busy playing bands to post anything. We have a show this weekend. You started this, didn't you, Summer? I knew you were trouble from the beginning. Get out of here. I'm on her side. Are you gonna kick me out too? Don't you see I'm doing this for you? Did you forget that Eric stole your songs and used them for his debut album? Rena, don't you think I already know what you're up to? You and that Eric guy are seeing each other, right? Doesn't he want you to spread rumors so he can replace Sonia, his current girlfriend? He says if I succeed, her place in the band will be mine. An affair is one thing, but he can't help you shine with that tuneless music. That's why I need your songs! Owen, just give me a few and everything will go smoothly. At that moment, it all became clear. The only album that made a name for the Berries was actually stolen. And worse still, the person behind my plummeting career was my own boyfriend. That jerk Eric craves fame and would never let himself get caught up in a love triangle scandal. You know how important public opinion is to him. He's using you, and as soon as you give him what he wants, he'll drop you without a thought. I'm not that easily replaceable. What do you mean, Summer? I'm sorry for lying about who I really am, but not everything is fake. I wish you could feel it. Pass my words to him. I'm out. And you, Rena? That jerk doesn't deserve any of our love or trust. Even if I didn't want to go back to being the famous Sonia, I couldn't continue to be the carefree Summer either. I didn't realize they were there. They must have heard everything. You're Sonia, not Summer? All this time? You lied to us! I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you or trick you. Your words made me want to change myself for the better, and your music taught and inspired me a lot. Caleb, Violet, June, I just want to be friends with you. Who wants to be your friend, you liar? I may have found out the truth about myself and Eric, but now I've lost my career, my friends, my boss, everything. I'd made such a mess of everything, and I didn't know how to fix it. I don't deserve to be Sonia, or even Summer. It must be a delivery guy. I barely had the energy to get up and open the door. Standing in front of me was... Owen? Did he come all the way here just to see me?
Sonia, I've been thinking a lot about your band and Eric, and I realized that this isn't your fault. You can't let Eric win. You're too talented for that. If you show everyone your true self, I just know they'll love you.
Actually, there's one thing I want to confess to you. I used to have a crush on you in high school, but you probably didn't even know I existed.
Really? That's so dumb.
What do you mean?
Actually, at that time I liked you too. You were so cute and shy with that beautiful voice, but when I came closer to talk to you, you just ran away.
If I had been more confident and braver, maybe we could have become something different.
What about now? I mean, do you still want to sing my song?
It'll be an honor. Your song is always special. Owen pulled me to the competition and tenderly strapped the bass on for me. Going out there without the rest of the band seemed terrifying, but we couldn't give up. Owen was about to lead me on stage when Rena rushed over to us and grabbed my arm. Sonia, I messed up. It's true that Eric was using me, and I had been so blind to trust him that much. I've corrected the misinformation about you. I was hugging her when the rest of the anti-fans appeared. I apologized to them how I was now a better version of myself because of them. Turns out we really like Summer, so we forgive you. Now we're ready to rock the night.
You can't sing with them, Sonia. That song is supposed to be the theme song in our next album.
Eric, it's Owen's song, not yours. And didn't Rena tell you that I no longer give a damn about your band? I did. Seems he wasn't listening. We've published your dirty plan all over the forums, so everyone can see what a jerk you are.
No, you have to come with me. Tell them you made it all up.
Leave her alone. I won't let you take anything from me again. My song or my girl. She's our friend now, so excuse us. We need to get on stage and perform our song. I can't believe I'm back on stage again. Only this time, it's so much better. My bandmates are awesome. The song is amazing, and the crowd is going wild. I saw Eric shamefully disappear through the crowd. Tough luck. That's what being a big slimy liar gets you. Toward the end of the song, Owen pulled me close to him and the crowd went silent. All I could hear was the beating of my heart when he gave me the best kiss ever.
Hi guys, I'm Sam, and boy, do I have a crazy story to tell you. But first, let me ask you this. Have you ever pretended to be gay to get close to a girl? Don't adjust your ears, you heard me right. Crazy, huh? Well, go get yourself some popcorn and stay tuned, as I'm going to tell you all about it. It began with my childhood sweetheart, Jeanette. We were together for 9 years and had been living together for 4 years. The most commonly asked question our friends and family threw at me was, "Why haven't you proposed yet?" I always made a joke of it and said something like, "All in good time." But the truth was, we were both still so young, and I just didn't feel ready to take that plunge yet. But surely, we will get married eventually. Then one day at work, me and my team got high praise for a big project we'd aced. To celebrate, I invited them over to mine to have a celebratory pizza lunch break. I knew Jeanette was working from home, but I didn't think she'd mind. I mean, who wouldn't want pizza? I led my colleagues into my place saying, "Hi honey, I'm home." Then my foot ended up entangled in something and I almost fell over. I reached down to free myself and lifted a bra. That's when I saw that there was a trail of clothes all over the floor. Then I heard moaning sounds coming from the bedroom. Oh dear God, please no. If she was doing what I thought she was, I would slam my head to a wall. And guess what? I walked into the bedroom, and there was Jeanette, in our bed with some other dude. They were so preoccupied that they didn't even notice me. so I coughed loudly to get their attention. She looked completely shocked, then sputtered out, "Sam, what are you doing here? Aren't you working?" Wow, this girl even dared to question me? I replied, "Oh, now you suddenly care about me? Ain't I the one who should be asking what on earth you guys are doing? Can't believe this." Then I walked out of there and back into the living room where all of my colleagues were standing there gawping at me. Oh no, I'd forgotten about them. I tried to keep some sort of composure as I politely asked them to leave, and also said I may be a little bit late back to work. Then that dude appeared and started picking his clothes off the floor. I was so mad I grabbed his pants and one of his sneakers and chucked them in the trash. Ha! Have fun smelling of garbage all day, jerk. After he left, I asked Jeanette why she did it, but she showed no sign of guilt or shame. She just sat there reasoning that she'd been waiting for me to propose for years, but I never had. She wasn't getting any younger, and she felt like she was wasting her life with someone who didn't seem able to fully commit to her. What? This was absurd. Of course I planned on proposing. I mean, maybe in a year or two. She just needed to wait, but no. Instead, she cheated on me with a guy that didn't even come close to me on the looks front. I mean, come on. At least pick someone who looked like Captain America. Then it would be a fair competition. Of course, Jeanette and I broke up after that. Thank God I found out she was a cheater before I actually married her. What a lucky escape. Phew. Okay, who was I trying to kid? The reality is, I was heartbroken. And worse still, everyone at work knew what she'd done. The only thing keeping me going were ice cream-fueled nights in watching low-budget horror movies. On one such night, some of my guy friends showed up and insisted on taking me out. I didn't want to go anywhere, but my friends didn't take no for an answer. Before long, I was in a bar drinking a beer and listening to my gay friend go on about how amazing his boyfriend was. Thinking about it, maybe he had a point. Girls were bossy, controlling, and always seemed in a hurry to reach life milestones. But guys weren't like that. Suddenly, I had an idea. I was so done with girls, but the truth is, I was lonely. So why didn't I give dating a guy a go? Yeah, I know it sounded crazy, but whatever. Who knows, maybe I was really gay and destined to be with a guy? So, that evening when I got home, I downloaded a dating app and started swiping for my dream man. It wasn't long before I stumbled upon Grant. He was wearing a Stranger Things t-shirt, and he was attractive. Although not as good-looking as me, of course. We started chatting, and a few days later, he asked me out on a date, and I agreed. We went to some fast food restaurant and ate greasy burgers, which Jeanette hated. Then we talked about superhero movies, which Jeanette also hated. It was refreshing being out with someone that didn't count calories or turn their nose up at geeky references. I walked home feeling positive, but as I passed a bubble tea cafe, something fell through the air and soaked me. What the hell, and what was I tasting? It was really sweet. I looked at myself and, was that bubble tea? I couldn't believe it. Somebody had just thrown a cup of bubble tea on my head. I looked around me to find the culprit. That's when I saw some shocked-looking girl running over to me. She was muttering out something about being really sorry and how she was aiming at her boyfriend but missed. By this point, I was in a foul mood. So I said to her, "Girl, your aim is lousy." Then I walked off. Man, all girls do is cause me grief. I was so done with them. So when Grant asked me out on another date, I said yes. We ended up in some cafe so we could have a little chit-chat. Suddenly, Grant reached over and took my hand. Oh my God, what should I do? Should I pull my hand back? But that would be so rude. All I wanted was to quickly get out of this dilemma. So I rambled out something about remembering I had to meet my parents. Then I quickly got out of there. Okay, so I'd had a revelation. I 100% wasn't gay. Thank God we stopped at holding hands. If he tried to kiss me, I might have fainted from the shock. Suddenly, my phone beeped. It was a message from my annoying cousin James with a photo attached. Oh my God, it was me and Grant holding hands! How come I didn't notice that James was in the same cafe as us? His message read, "Give me your Avengers action figure collection or I'm sending this to your parents." What? Didn't he have better things to do than to blackmail me? No way I would give him my precious collection. If I saw him, I would have even given him a smack in the head for this childish move. I ignored his idle threats. That idiot couldn't scare me anyway. I decided I needed a break from dating. Maybe I needed a new hobby such as reading. Yeah, reading would be a great way to distract myself. So the next day I went to the bookstore when suddenly I saw Jeanette. Oh, great. What was she doing here? I freaked out, so I grabbed the nearest book to me and pretended to read it. Phew, she hadn't seen me, had she? Then suddenly I hear her voice saying, "Sam, is that you?" I lowered the book and forced a fake smile and greeted her back. Then she pointed at the book I was holding and said, "Is that for your niece?" Seeing her had made me all flustered, so I muttered out, "No, it's for me." She gave me a weird look, then said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were into those kinds of novels." What? I looked at the book I was holding. Oh, just great. I was holding the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I was about to correct myself when suddenly some seriously handsome guy appeared and put his hand on Jeanette's waist. "Sam, this is Nick, my fiancé." She showed me the massive diamond ring on her finger. This Nick dude shook my hand. Well, he had a firm grip. Then they started giving each other lovey-dovey looks. This was my cue to leave, so I put that book down, muttered out a goodbye, and hurried out of there. Great. Jeanette had got herself some other hunk, and I was feeling like a loser. I needed to clear my head, so I went for a long walk and found myself at the lake where Jeanette and I went for our first date. Standing there, I remembered how a pigeon had pooped on her jacket, and I'd laughed so much I tripped and dropped my phone in the lake. The good old days. My memories were interrupted by the sounds of someone sobbing. That's when I spotted a crying girl sitting by the lake. Suddenly, she stood up and it looked like she was going to jump. Panic-stricken, I ran over to her and grabbed her arm to stop her. She got so startled that she punched me right in the face. My nose was bleeding and my mouth swelled up like I'd been stung by a swarm of bees. I screamed, "What the heck?" and gave the girl a dirty look. Oh my God, not her again. It was the bubble tea girl. What was it with me and this girl? She's surely bad news. Every time we met, I ended up getting hit. I'm sorry, but my body couldn't handle any of that anymore. And it seemed like she also recognized me, so she immediately apologized and asked if I was okay. I was super mad, so I yelled at her, "No, I'm not okay. And what on earth do you think you're doing? No matter how bad your problems are, you should never do such selfish things. Do you really want to leave this world all behind?" The girl gave me a weird look and said, "Huh? What are you talking about?" Turns out it was all a misunderstanding. She wasn't trying to jump in the lake. She just wanted to throw away the ring her boyfriend had given her. Oops. She told me how she'd caught him cheating on her at her birthday party. With her cousin. Ouch. I thought my ex was the worst. But her ex sounded like the jerkiest jerk ever. We grabbed a drink, not bubble tea, and sat by the lake and chatted for a while. It turns out she's actually all right. I mean, she's pretty cute and funny, and her favorite superhero is Black Widow. I mean, she's a kick-ass choice, and though, no, I think I might have a crush on her. By the time we said our goodbyes, she'd stopped crying and was actually smiling, so that meant she liked me too, right? As I walked home, I realized something. I'd forgotten to get her number. Oh, man, I was so stupid. And even her name was a mystery. I mean, it wasn't like she was actually called Bubble Tea Girl, so I couldn't even look her up. Real good job there, Sammy boy. Aren't you guys curious about if I ever got to know her name? Stay tuned for the next part. The fun is yet to come. Hi guys, it's Sam, your favorite single guy. After my girlfriend of 9 years, Jeanette, cheated on me, I decided to give up on girls and try dating a guy instead. It took a few dates with this guy called Grant for me to realize that I'm not gay. Feeling confused, I wandered over to the lake. That's when I saw the bubble tea girl sobbing her heart out. We ended up chatting and turns out she's pretty amazing. But being the dumb guy I am, I forgot to ask her for her name and number. I'd already run into her twice, so surely it wouldn't be long until our paths crossed again, right? But weeks went by, and there was no sign of her. I even spent a few afternoons in the bubble tea cafe in an attempt to find her again. I didn't spot her, but I did find her look-alike. The poor girl looked terrified when I charged up to her shouting, "Yes, I found you!" Oops. I just couldn't stop thinking about her. Ugh, this was so annoying. Then, to make my day even worse, my mother called and asked me to come over for an emergency meeting. There's no point arguing with my mother, as she's a formidable force, so I went straight round there. As soon as I walked through the door, she waved her phone in front of me. There was the picture of me holding that Grant guy's hand. It seems James had stayed true to his threat. That jerk. He was definitely off my Christmas card list. Mom sternly asked me, Who is that young man, and are you having an affair with him? What about Jeanette, that poor girl? Oh, yeah. I may have forgotten to tell them that I wasn't with Jeanette anymore. I told my parents to get a stiff drink and sit down. Then I filled them in on Jeanette cheating on me, the breakup, and how in my confused and lonely state I thought I might be gay. But I realized I wasn't. My parents didn't look convinced by my story. They have nothing against the LGBT community, but they own a pharmaceutical company, which I will take over in a few years, and it's important to them that the family has a successor. Ugh, could they just stop overthinking for a sec? Then my mom glared at me as she said, Sam, your father and I are insistent that you end it with this man at once, and then you shall attend the dates we set up. I happen to know a family with a lovely daughter who's around your age. I'll invite her round for dinner tomorrow night. Make sure you dress smartly. I had no choice but to agree to this, so I wore this stylish chic Italian suit, and my, oh my, it should be a crime to look as handsome as me. Even I found myself irresistible. The family arrived and I braced myself for my first glance of this girl. What? I knew her. To my shock, it was the bubble tea girl. Her parents introduced her. Her name was Julia. Julia? What a beautiful name. I just couldn't hide my joy. I was smiling the whole time. I couldn't stop myself, even though it might have looked kinda creepy. The stars had aligned. The girl of my dreams was sitting opposite me and wow, I couldn't take my eyes off her. The way she ate, drank, and sneezed, everything was so cute. Oh gosh, I was really falling for this girl. After dinner, my mother suggested I take Julia on a guided tour of the garden, as the roses this season were really beautiful. As soon as we were outside, Julia turned to me and said, Okay, listen, you're the 10th guy my parents have set me up over the past 2 weeks. I'm exhausted. I have no intention of settling down anyway. So why don't we save each other's time and end it now? Oh, wow, I didn't see that coming. She didn't like me? I mean, hello? Prince Charming was in a suit, for God's sake. This girl seriously needed her eyes checked. She said, I'm out of here, and was about to go inside when I had a light bulb moment. Wait, I have an idea. What if we get engaged? She turned around and gave me a shocked look. Well, I'd started this, so I might as well carry on. Your parents are bugging you and mine are bugging me. So let's pretend to get engaged, then we wouldn't have them interfering with our love lives anymore. It would be a win-win for both of us. Julia looked confused and wasn't convinced at all, so I added, You would still be allowed to date other people, no strings attached. It's just that we would probably have to live together to avoid any suspicion. But that's not a big deal. My apartment has plenty of space. So what do you say? I could tell that Julia was thinking it over, but she looked like she needed a booster, which is why I blurted out, Oh, and also, FYI, I'm gay. So you don't have to worry about me as you're not my type. It'd be like living with a roommate, albeit an extremely handsome one. Oh, great. How could I win her over when she thought I was gay? Great job, Sam! But then to my surprise, she agreed to it. Oh my God, I didn't think it would work. I was so happy but needed to calm down and play it cool. So we shook hands to seal the deal. The next day, we met up in a cafe to discuss the terms, and we came up with a set of very important rules. 1. Don't tell another living soul about the contract. 2. No excuses. Important events must be attended together. 3. We can date other people, but they must be kept secret from all friends and family. 4. No one else is allowed to stay over, due to limited space and awkward alert. 5. Wednesday night is taco and movie night. This is non-negotiable. We both signed the contract. Wow, I couldn't believe this was actually happening. I was about to embark on a fake relationship with my dream girl. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? We fake dated for a month, then we invited our families to a posh restaurant and announced that we were engaged. Then she showed them the bargain ring we'd gone halves on and everything. My mom was so delighted she wouldn't stop hugging everyone. After that, we moved in together, and my plan to win over my fiancé's heart was officially in motion. On our first night at my place, which was now our new home, I took out an extra pillow for Julia and changed the blanket to a bigger one, so we could share it. Julia saw me making the bed, so she asked, Oh, what are you doing? You don't seriously think we're sleeping in the same bed together, right? I said, Of course we were. Where else should we sleep? She laughed and said she was taking the bed and that I could sleep on the couch. Oh, hell no. This was a great chance to get close to her. So I said I had back problems and needed to sleep on the bed. I reminded her again I was gay, so no worries, but she still refused, so she slept on the couch. Ugh, she was so stubborn. How was I meant to sleep knowing that my fiancé was on the couch? So I went to check on her and see if she was still awake. Nope. She was fast asleep. Even with her mouth open, she looked super cute. I laid on the ground next to her, and before I knew it, I'd fallen asleep. I had this amazing dream where Julia and I were chasing each other at the beach, and she was teasing me by splashing water on my face. Suddenly, I woke up as I felt something wet on my face. I opened my eyes, and it was Julia. She was drooling on me. Ugh. I hurried back to the bedroom before she woke up and saw me covered in her slobber, as that would have been awkward. The next morning, I made Julia my specialty breakfast of scrambled eggs, bacon, and sausages. I put real effort into my presentation, so my dishes always look like they came from a Michelin star restaurant. Gordon Ramsay had nothing on my culinary abilities. After breakfast, she went out, so I decided to make a few adjustments. I arranged for the couch to be taken away. Then, later on, I decided to cook her a slap-up dinner. She walked through the door and looked confused when she saw the table was set with a vase of flowers and candles. "What's the occasion?" she asked me. "No reason. I always cook like this," I shrugged. "And where's the couch?" She frowned at me. "Oh, that old thing? It broke. Springs everywhere. It was a danger, really, so I had it taken away. Just stay in my bed until we get a new one." I knew she couldn't refuse now, as there was nowhere else to sleep. But no, she didn't agree. Ugh, she must be doubting I was gay. I knew it. Okay, I still had a backup plan. It was time to bring out the boys. I took a stack of magazines out of my closet and said, "Okay, at least let me find a blanket for you to sleep on." She looked at the magazines with wide eyes. Yes, they were all People's Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive covers. Chris Hemsworth, Bradley Cooper, and other irresistible chaps. She was about to pick one up, but I gave her a serious look and said, "Please be careful. They're my prize collection." She was silent for a moment and then said it was okay to sleep in the same bed. Oh my God, success! I knew it was a great idea to borrow those magazines from my friend. Julia took out some extra pillows, put them in the middle of the bed, and said, "Don't you dare cross the line." I smiled and nodded. The next morning I woke up and was shocked as hell. Julia was hugging me while sleeping. All the pillows she put in the middle were lying on the ground. Looks like she couldn't resist me. I mean, who could blame her? I am a hunk. I just lay there still and enjoying this beautiful moment. But then she suddenly woke up and pushed me out of the bed. Ouch! It was worth the pain though, right? And it didn't stop there. Living with Julia while having to pretend to be gay was a bumpy road that I've decided to take. I must say, but will this bear me some sweet fruit in the end? Stay tuned to find out. Hi, it's Sam again. I'm just your standard guy who, is pretending to be gay so that his fake fiancée Julia has time to realize how much of a stud he is and fall for him. Yeah, I don't know how I got myself into this situation either. Things between Julia and me were going pretty well. Of course, there were a few awkward moments, but that's to be expected, right? One time, we were sitting on deck chairs in the living room, as we still hadn't replaced the couch, and we were watching a movie together. I noticed Julia wafting her hand in front of her and itching at her skin. Then she said, "It's too hot. I'm coming out in sweats." Being the gent I am, I replied, "Do you want me to get you an ice-cold glass of water?" "No," she shook her head. "It's just this stupid bra. I need it off right now. Don't look." Geez, this was way too much for me. I resembled a blushing tomato as I clumsily turned in another direction and looked out the window. But oh man, I can see her reflection in it. She was putting her hand inside her shirt, and after a second, she pulled her bra out. Oh wow. It was like watching a live performance of David Copperfield. On another occasion, I was in town when Julia texted me saying, "Hey bestie, could you please go to the shop for me? I forgot Aunt Flo was visiting today." Her aunt was coming over? Why didn't she mention it before? I tried to keep my cool and just texted back, "Okay, is your aunt staying for dinner?" Julia immediately rang me laughing hysterically. It turns out Aunt Flo means she was having her period. Oh my God, girls and their codes. But most memorable of all was the bathroom incident. Julia was taking a shower, but she didn't lock the door. Of course, I didn't realize she was in there, so I went inside to use the toilet. Right at that moment, Julia started getting out of the shower, saw me, freaked out, screamed, tripped, got caught up in the shower curtain, and fell onto the floor. I wanted to help, but it was kind of an awkward moment for me too. and I didn't know where to look, so I just ran out and closed the door. Regardless of awkward moments like that, I felt so happy being around Julia so much. Each day I found myself falling for her that little bit more. I even found her weird habits attractive, such as how she always slurped when drinking coffee. And she had a serious obsession with Post-it notes. She scribbled messages on them and stuck them around the house. I even found one stuck to the milk saying, "Drink me!" I loved her, and I was more determined than ever to conquer her heart. But then one day something horrible happened. She was over an hour late home for dinner, so I texted her asking where she was. She replied, "Sorry, I'm on a date, see you later." Oh no, I had to stop it. So I texted back, "Oh, it's just this idiot here has lost his keys. Where are you? Can I come borrow yours?" She replied with the name of some bar in town. Oh great, dating in bars was the worst. I immediately drove there, and as soon as I saw them, I rushed over and greeted them. When her jerky date asked me if I was Julia's friend, I gave him a big fat smile and replied, "Oh no, I'm her fiancé." The look on his face was priceless. He instantly excused himself and ran off. Julia looked furious and started yelling at me. I told her it was an accident and the words just slipped out, but she didn't look convinced. Unfortunately, this didn't stop her from dating other guys. She turned into the dating queen. She was always scrolling through dating apps and taking new selfies for her profile pictures. Obviously, I wasn't happy about this, but she thought I was gay. So what was I meant to do about it? Then she took it too far. She invited one of these guys over to our place for dinner on our Wednesday taco night. How could she? I couldn't use the fiancé trick anymore, as Julia would kill me. So I had to think up another genius idea to send this jerk packing. She introduced me to him as her gay roommate. So while we were eating the delicious tacos that I had made, I thought up an awesome idea. I started touching this guy's arm and saying things like, "Ooh, you're so muscular. How often do you work out?" Then I turned up the heat and played some footsie under the table with him. He was smiling over at Julia. Poor guy must have thought it was her doing it. And when he bent under the table to pick up his fork, he saw it was my foot. He was so shocked that he hit his head on the table. That was hilarious. He made some excuse after that and left in a hurry. Julia was confused and didn't know what happened. And I just shrugged and said, "I don't know, maybe he doesn't like tacos." Another success for me. Then, one day, Julia's parents were throwing an anniversary party, and of course, Julia and I had to appear like a loved-up couple. Fine by me. Julia was introducing me to some of her relatives, and I was impressing them with my charm when I noticed her stare off across the room. I followed her gaze and saw a guy hand in hand with a girl walking toward us. Turns out it was her cheater ex and her cousin. Worse still, they told us they were getting married and we were both invited to the wedding. Ugh, poor Julia clung to my arm. I could tell she was trying to hold in how furious she was, but she forced a smile and told them we were looking forward to it. After the party, she told me to go home first, as she had some business to take care of. I had a bad feeling about this, as I knew how upset she was about her ex. I didn't want her to leave by herself, so I followed her. One guess where a heartbroken, angry, miserable girl would go on a Saturday night. Yep, a noisy, sweaty club. Thank God I'd followed her. I stayed close and kept an eye on her. Seeing her ex must have triggered some bad memories because she was drinking a lot. Then 2 guys appeared and started talking to her. A moment later, they started to drag her away. She resisted, but that didn't stop them. So I rushed over, grabbed their shirts, gave them a dirty look, and said with a super deep voice like Thor, "Leave the girl alone." Oh man, they were so scared that they immediately left. Julia looked surprised and relieved to see me. I drove her home, and on the way, I asked her why she was still upset about her idiot ex. She sighed out, "I'm not. I just hate the fact that a jerk like him can marry someone and be happy. He doesn't deserve it, and it's so not fair." When we got out of the car, I put my hand on her shoulder, looked deeply into her eyes, and said, "That loser doesn't belong with a beautiful girl like you. Both him and your cousin are jerks, and they deserve each other." Julia nodded and smiled at me. After that, Julia and I continued our lives as a happily, albeit fake, engaged couple. I tried to take care of her and make her laugh as much as I could. But then Julia started to act weird, like she was avoiding me. She didn't talk to me much anymore and often came home late. Oh my God, wait. Was she dating again? I swear if anyone dared to flirt with my Julia, I wouldn't leave him alone. So I booked the day off work to spy on her. But that day when I woke up, Julia was nowhere to be found. Only one of her beloved post-it notes was lying on her pillow. I read it, and oh my God! Sam, I have feelings for you, but I know you don't feel the same, so guess I shouldn't be around you anymore. The pain is too much. Julia, X. I couldn't believe it. I pressed that note to my chest. Ah, my sweet Julia, she had feelings for me, but she thought I was gay. Why was this so complicated? I tried calling her, but she didn't answer. Days passed, but there was still no sign of her. Then suddenly I remembered. The wedding. It was today. I was sure she would be there, as she wouldn't give them the satisfaction of being a no-show. I quickly put my Italian suit on. Wow, hey there, handsome chap. When I arrived at the wedding, the groom and bride were sharing their first dance. I looked around and saw Julia sitting alone in the corner and watching them dance. I did my best movie hunk walk over to her, held out my hand and asked her, "Madam, may I please have this dance?" Julia looked surprised and was about to say something, but I dragged her over to the dance floor. "Sam, why are you here?" She asked me, but I didn't reply. Then she pushed me away, broke down in tears and said, "Please, just leave me alone. Can't you see that I've suffered enough?" I said to her, "Julia, why don't you see that you're my bubble tea girl? There's no one else like you." I hugged her tight, and then I did what I'd wanted to do since I started talking to her that day at the lake. I leaned in and kissed her. So, guess what happened next? Did she slap me across the face and call me a liar? Well, yes, after I told her everything. Geez, that girl has a slap on her. But then she hugged me and cried with joy. I couldn't imagine a better ending than this. Yeah, I know I did a crazy thing to win over my girl, and I don't recommend pretending to be gay to get close to someone. But you know what they say, falling in love makes you do dumb things. And boy, does Julia own my giant dumb heart.
Hi everyone, I'm Emma, and this is my story about what can happen when someone gets so jealous of you, they try to ruin your life. It all started with my mom. She's a beautiful woman, and I took after her. So, when she divorced my dad and we moved to a new town, obviously I started a new school. That's when the trouble began. I became popular very quickly, but not with the girls. It was the boys who went wild from me, and it drove me crazy. I just wanted a normal life with some nice friends, and it wasn't my fault my mom had passed her beauty down to me. Anyway, there was one girl in particular called Anna who was having none of it. She was also pretty, but she was seriously jealous of me from day one. I remember that first week hearing some girls whispering in the bathroom that I was prettier than Anna. And then Anna walked in and she looked like she wanted to scream. After that, she went out of her way to destroy my life. At my old school, I'd been a cheerleader, so I signed up to join at this new school. Little did I know, Anna was head cheerleader. She pretended to be all nice to me at practice. Then at the first football game we were performing and going through our routine which Anna had choreographed, she made me go at the top of the pyramid, balancing on top of everyone. I was so nervous, but I knew I could do it. Anyway, as I was climbing up there, I suddenly saw Anna whisper to the girl next to her, and then she moved, and the whole pyramid started to fall. She obviously wanted to hurt me, but it backfired, and we all fell on top of her. All we heard was a scream as her arm snapped. Afterwards, she told everyone I was clumsy, and it was all my fault. But I knew she'd planned it, so I'd be the one to get hurt. And that's not all. Prom was coming up, and my mom had made me the most beautiful long silk dress. I felt like a princess and couldn't wait to see what everyone would think. Of course, Anna was also wearing a beautiful dress, but everyone was staring at me. I saw her roll her eyes, and then when I was dancing with two of my friends, I felt something rip. I looked behind me and Anna was standing on my dress. I couldn't believe it. I tried to move, but she wouldn't budge and it wouldn't stop ripping. Suddenly, I was standing there with a mini dress and I wanted to cry. But then my friend quickly got some scissors and kneaded it up. And believe it or not, it actually looked even cooler than before. Once again, Anna tried to make me look like a fool, but it all fell on her. Everyone was so impressed with my dress, and I even started a new trend wearing mini dresses to prom. However, despite all these silly pranks, there was one thing that Anna had that I didn't: a boyfriend. She was dating Isaac, one of the top athletes in school, and anytime she was with him and saw me, she would always smirk and look me up and down as if to say she had a boyfriend and I didn't. I didn't care for her silly competitiveness though. I wasn't even bothered about being single. All I wanted was for her to leave me alone. Pretty soon, we became like enemies. I just couldn't stand her and her annoying behaviors. But then things got worse. One weekend, my mom drove me to a game and insisted on staying to watch my cheerleading performance. Later, I spotted her chatting with some man and she looked like she was having a good time. I was happy to see her smile that brightly after a long time. And as expected, not long after that, she introduced him to me, but you won't believe who it was. It turned out he was Anna's dad, out of all people on earth. And worse still, they were now hopelessly in love and even wanted to get married. Oh no! If I knew who he was, I would have broken them up from the start. I couldn't be Anna's stepsister. This was my worst nightmare. And when Anna found out about this, she started to treat me even worse. One time, I was walking in the canteen when suddenly someone pushed me. I went flying and ended up bumping into a boy who fell over too. It was so sore, but the pain quickly disappeared when I realized who the boy was. It was Liam, the new hot guy who just joined the athletes club. I kept apologizing to him, but he just laughed and said it was okay, then helped me get up and took me to the nurse's office to make sure I wasn't hurt. Afterwards, he even asked for my number. I couldn't believe it. I was actually blushing over a boy. Then I went back to the canteen and there was Anna, staring at me all angry. I didn't even have to think twice about who'd push me. Obviously, Anna. Well, thanks to her silly prank, now I had a cute guy interested in me. And for once, I was actually interested in him too. It didn't take long before we became a couple, and then we were pretty much attached at the hip. I also joined his athletes practice, and because Isaac was there too, Anna was always there as well. She just glared at me with dagger eyes whenever she saw me. I didn't get what her problem was. Anyway, one time, the athletes club suggested we all go see a movie, with girlfriends included. In the theater, Anna sat behind me and kept kicking my chair. I turned over and asked her to stop, but she wouldn't. I could feel the anger welling up inside me and I thought I was gonna explode, but I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of Liam. So I decided I needed to stay as far away from Anna as possible. That wasn't easy though. Our school had organized a big athletes competition with another school, and so Liam was always practicing. I always sat in the stands and watched him. And on the day of the competition, Anna came and sat next to me. I almost froze. What was she up to? Instead of pulling some prank, she handed me a bottle of water and said, "Hey, Emma, I don't want to be your enemy anymore. We're basically going to be sisters, so let's just make up, okay?" Then she turned to me and smiled shyly. Whoa, well, that was a surprise. I felt relieved though and said, I thought this day would never come. I hated things being all awkward between us. Anna just smiled at me again. And then we came down to the field where Isaac and Liam were warming up for the race to wish them luck. Finally, the competition began. Anna and I sat together, cheering our boyfriends on. As expected, Liam won first prize and Isaac came in second. I was so happy for Liam and ran out to the field to hug him, but suddenly some of the organizers approached him and escorted him off the field. I had no idea what was going on, but I saw Anna smirking at me and then walking away. What was that for? After a while, the organizers came back and said Liam had been caught doping, so now the first prize would go to Isaac. What? There was no way Liam would do something illegal like that. He'd never used any kind of substance to perform well. He was just naturally talented. Everyone started saying mean things about Liam, and I couldn't bear it. So I went to find him. I saw him sitting in the corner of the locker room looking shocked. When he saw me, he shook his head and said, I didn't use doping. You have to believe me, Emma. I'm not that kind of guy. All I did was drink the water you gave me. Oh my God, the water bottle! Anna had given it to me, and I must have passed it on to Liam to hydrate before the competition. I thought she was being nice, but of course she wasn't. This was Anna we were talking about. She'd planned this. She was seriously too much. I ran to find her and I was raging. She was happily talking to the other athletes, so I grabbed her wrist and pulled her away. How could you? Are you trying to ruin Liam's life? I yelled at her. Anna wasn't even bothered. She just smirked and said, "Yup, I am, and so what?" I was shaking by that point and I said, "You're crazy. Why did you do it? What has Liam ever done to you?" "I did it 'cause I hate you. You stole everything from me, including Liam." Huh? I was so confused. Since when did Anna like Liam? Well, Isaac appeared at the exact moment and he obviously heard what she said. He started shouting, "You told me you did that to help me win, but no, you're a complete liar. So you're just jealous of Emma, huh? Okay then, now you can run after Liam as you wish. We're over." Anna was shocked and tried to explain that she'd done it for him, that he was misunderstanding her, but he wouldn't even look at her. He said, "You won't get away with this, Anna. I'm gonna tell the organizers right now." Anna tried to get him to stop, but he pushed her away, and she ended up falling onto the ground where she burst in tears. Ha! She deserved it. I went back to find Liam, and the organizers announced that there were some problems with the results and that the competition would be repeated the following weekend. Liam looked so happy and hugged me. Everything worked out in the end. Well, at least for Liam and me. Liam still won first place, and now he's going to compete in the international competition. As for Anna and Isaac, well, they broke up, and Anna moved to another city with her mom. And Isaac got kicked out of the athletes club. On another note, my mom and Anna's dad are getting married soon. And even though I can't stand Anna, I'm still going to go because it'll mean a lot to my mom. At least I don't need to live in the same house as Anna. She's got to be the most jealous person I've ever met, and it's not done her any good. Envy really is poison. It's much better to just be happy with what you have right now, right?
Hey, I'm Aiden. I'm 17, and everyone views me as a babe magnet. I can't help it. I'm just irresistible to the ladies. This is something I'm proud of. I mean, come on. Being able to win over any girl I like? Now that's an achievement, right? I don't blame the ladies. I find myself irresistible too. I'm good looking, rich, and I can charm the birds out of the trees. If I could date myself, I would. Yes, I like to flirt with pretty girls, but I've been single for a while now. Out of choice. It's simple. Girls are too complicated. They start off all sweet and innocent, but then a few months down the line, they turn into possessive psychos, checking my phone, accusing me of cheating on them, and sulking when I hang out with my friends instead of watching some dumb rom-com with them. I believe that when a relationship turns this sour, then there's no saving it. However, my last ex, Mona, was almost impossible to end things with. When I told her I didn't want to be with her anymore, she went crazy. 355 missed calls later, and 1,026 unanswered messages, and she seemed to get the hint. Moreover, she started some rumor around school that I'd got her pregnant. I was abandoning her and my unborn child. An afternoon spent explaining to the principal that Mona was lying wasn't my idea of fun. Mona needed stopping, so I called on my trusted best friend Gary for help. Oh, I didn't tell you about Gary. He isn't just a friend. He's my sidekick. Whenever I needed him, he showed up without question and did everything I asked of him. Gary is a shy guy and kinda goofy, so maybe that's why he likes to be friends with a shrewd boy like me. On this occasion, I passed him a cop outfit and instructed him to go to Mona's house. I hid behind the fence and watched as she answered the door to him. She didn't recognize him. Instead, she totally freaked out when he told her if she continued to slander me, she'd have to accompany him to the station. She burst into tears and promised she wouldn't lie ever again. Then one day, Gary came to me and said he needed my help. Sure, bud. Anything you need. He said he had a crush on this girl, but he didn't know what to do to get her info. Ooh, my boy started to love, huh? Easy. Just leave it to me. The next day, we went to the mall, and he showed me this girl. Turns out she's some cutie that works in a clothing store. Summer break had just begun, so I had the perfect plan to help my bro get the girl. I told him to apply for a part-time job there, but he instantly refused, saying he was far too nervous to do that. So the next day, I went to the store and showed the boss my CV and asked for a job, but he said there were no vacancies. Suddenly, a guy who worked there came over to us and resigned. Bingo! I got the job. Yeah, I had to pay this guy 2 months' wages in exchange for quitting, but, well, all for my bro. I had nothing but money. Anyway, First step, done. So I started the job, and all of the girls who worked there instantly flocked around me. As I said before, I'm a babe magnet. Well, all apart from that girl Gary likes, she didn't seem to care. I did find out her name though. It was Helen. In the following days, I spent a lot of time just trying to talk to Helen to get to know her, but she kept ignoring me. I knew I needed to step up my game. So when I found out she was working overtime, I seized my chance. When I was packing things into storage, I purposely dropped the box on my boss's head when he walked past. Don't worry, it wasn't heavy. He wasn't very happy about it and made me do overtime. Result: great. It was just me and Helen alone in the store. She looked exhausted, so I passed her some water and said, "Are you tired? Just go home. I can cover for you." She looked at the glass of water and smirked. "I'm fine. Aren't you tired of chasing me and getting nowhere? I know what kind of boy you are." Then she got up to continue working and completely ignored me. Once again, I failed. Time for plan B. I convinced Gary to pretend he was famous and come into the store. I told him to pay some girls to ask him for autographs and pictures when he walked in. The plan was he would ask Helen for advice. She would be very interested and fall for him. A perfect plan, huh? Yeah, it didn't go so well. He showed up looking like some sort of circus clown. I told him to dress brightly, but it didn't mean he should dress up like he'd stolen a rainbow. None of the girls he paid to pester him showed up, so he just stood there awkwardly and Helen didn't look very impressed. This silly guy. Did I really have to do everything for him? So I came up with plan C. I decided to kidnap her. Just kidding. Actually, I took her to the beach. We only had a morning shift that day, so when we finished, I waited for her outside. As soon as I saw her, I pulled her to the car waiting there and told my driver to go. She wasn't best pleased and threatened to call the cops. I told her to relax and enjoy the day, because she'd worked so hard. In the end, she stopped yelling and told me there better be ice cream. We played with water, found some seashells, normal beach stuff. Her mood got better and I could feel like she was being more comfortable with me. Then we sat on the sand and watched the sunset. I saw Helen look at her watch, then look at me. "It's getting late. Home time?" "Sure, but hey, how about next time we get you a new watch? Yours is ancient." She shook her head. "No, it's fine. My dad gave it to me. He used to be a great man, but when I was 9, he turned to drink. One time, he went home and hit my mom. He left after that, and I've not heard from him since." After a brief silence, I said, "Do you miss him?" She looked sad and said, "I do, but I don't know if I forgive him. Every time I think of him, I look at this watch. My dad carved my name on it by himself." I comforted her. "Well, don't think too much. I understand how it feels to lose a loved one. My mom passed away when I was little. I live with my dad, but he gives me only money instead of his time. He doesn't take care of me like your mother does for you." I looked at her and she gave me a sympathetic look back. I suddenly felt my heart skip a beat. Helen was such a sweet girl. But no, I reminded myself I was doing this for Gary. So we stood up and went home. I got my driver to drop her off at her house, and in doing so, I found out where she lives. To get to her house, we had to pass a really long and dark alley. So I came up with a great idea. I'd pay guys to pretend to be thugs, then Gary could show up and rescue her. The hero and damsel in distress. Old, but gold. The day of the fake thug attack came and I hid behind the dumpster. I saw Helen coming and then the 2 thugs showed up. Hang on, who were these guys? These weren't the guys I'd hired. Suddenly, Gary rushed to save Helen. Oh no, he didn't know they were real thugs. I watched him being tackled to the ground. I'm too good looking for fighting, but on this occasion, I had to make an exception. So I jumped out and karate kicked the bad guys. That's when my hired thugs showed up and helped me out. What good timing. Gary and I took Helen home. Before coming inside, she looked at me with grateful eyes and said, "Thank you so much." I put my hand on Gary's shoulder and forced a smile. "Oh, not at all. I was just passing by and then I saw this brave guy helping you." Then she smiled at me and went into her house without looking at him once. Gary signed, "Thanks, bro." I replied, "I'm sorry, buddy." It failed again. Then to my surprise, Gary said, "It's okay. I think I have to give up anyway. I have no courage to see her ever again. But I could see the way she looked at you. I know I've been beat. But you had a crush on her. Don't give up." Don't worry. Letting go doesn't mean giving up, but rather accepting that there are things that cannot be. And you, give her a chance and try to be serious this time. She's a good girl. That night, I thought about what Gary said. Turns out he was right. I did have feelings for Helen, and I needed to tell her. The next day, I walked up to her after work and started stuttering out a bunch of nonsense. But then I saw someone walking over to us. Mona. She looked at me and said, "Well, look who's got a new girlfriend." Then she turned to Helen. "Hey, be careful with this one. He likes to trick girls, then dump them. Don't love him too much or else he will call a cop to your house and break up with you like he did to me." Helen stared at me in shock. "Is this true?" Then, when I remained silent, she burst into tears. "I knew it! I knew you were a jerk, but I still fell for you." I tried to hold her to calm her down, but she kept pushing me away. Then suddenly her watch fell off, and I heard a crunching sound. I'd accidentally stepped on it. I picked it up, and it didn't work anymore. She screamed at me, "How could you? You know how much this watch means to me?" I didn't know what to do, so I ran away. I know I'm a jerk, but I was going to fix this, starting with the watch. I wandered to a second-hand market looking for a watchmaker, and my search led me to a house owned by a cranky man. He refused to help me at first, but then when I pulled the watch out, he stared at it and said he would help me with one condition. The next day I gave Helen the watch and asked her to forgive me. She angrily took it off me, but looking at it, she seemed confused when she saw it was fixed. "How?" she asked me. "I went to see someone, and that person also wants to apologize to you." I gestured for her to turn around. The watchmaker stepped out, and Helen's face fell. It was her dad. She yelled at him, "Why are you here?" I knew I needed to defuse the situation, so I said, "When I went to fix this watch, he recognized it and begged me to help him talk to you. He still loves you so much." Helen's dad said, "Helen, I just want to apologize to you and your mom. For the past 7 years, I've been so lonely. Please forgive me so I don't have to live in torment anymore." So, after a long conversation, they finally reunited. Helen agreed to forgive her dad only if he went to her house and apologized to her mom. As for me and Helen, well, she shyly thanked me after that, and of course she forgave me. I told her I loved her and she laughed, punched me in the arm, and then told me she loved me too. So we're now an official couple. I may be a babe magnet, but I'm now very much a one-woman man. Don't worry, ladies, as my main man Gary is still available for dates, and he's a catch.
Have you ever wondered what being a parent would be like? How about if you suddenly became a parent and your parent became a teenager? Well, it happened to me, and I'm here to tell you all about it. Hello, everybody. My name's Heaven, and I'm 17. But don't let my name deceive you, because this Heaven came straight out of hell. I suppose I've never been the easiest child. Back when I was younger, I had a lot of temper tantrums and outbursts. Once, when I was 8, this boy took the green crayon I wanted, so I snatched it off him, then snapped it in half. He burst into tears, and the teacher got involved and tried to put me in the timeout corner, so I screamed at her and even gave her some bruises. The teacher rang my parents and told them this was the last strike, and I'd been expelled. When they picked me up, my dad just sighed and stayed quiet, but my mom yelled at me.
"Well, I hope you're happy now, Heaven. You've brought shame to our family, and now we've got to find another school willing to take you."
Now, 9 years later, and the relationship between Mom and me is worse than ever. We just don't see eye to eye on anything. To be honest, we're like strangers. She has absolutely no idea what it feels like to be a teenager, and her super strict rules are ridiculous, such as no boyfriends until I'm 18, no parties, no drinking, no staying out past 8:30 p.m., no unhealthy foods. No. She was such a fun killer. Jeez, who was she to try and control me like this? Ugh. Me being me, I tried to find my way around these stupid rules. I made out I was having a girly sleepover at my friend Clara's house, then ended up going to a party. I said I was at an after-school club, when really, I went on a date with a boy, and I chucked the healthy packed lunches she made me in the trash and ordered a greasy burger and loaded cheese fries instead. I hated the fact that Mom was ruining my life with all of her dumb rules, and she hated the fact that I didn't respect her enough to follow her dumb rules. Because of this, we argued. A lot. And my little bro John and my dad often found themselves stuck in the middle. I guess that they couldn't stand the icy atmosphere between us. So eventually, they themselves prepared for a family day out. And it was certainly going to fix nothing. Her rules still followed us to the park, and she'd even stopped me talking to this really cute guy and shouted at me to go mind John. Ugh! I wasn't here to be a maid! Then, when we got home, she insisted I help her cook dinner. So I poured Dad a beer, and when I thought Mom wasn't looking, I slurped back the rest of the can. Suddenly, my mom screamed out, "What do you think you're doing? You're too young to be drinking!" I just rolled my eyes and said, "What? It was a tiny sip. Stop being so uptight, else you'll turn into a wrinkly old prune." Then I threw the can on the floor and walked off. She gave me a fierce glare, but I didn't care. How could she be just so serious? So when we were all sitting around the table for dinner, I could feel the tension between me and Mom. She passed John a plate full of chicken nuggets, but she passed me a plate heaped full of broccoli. Yuck! Where are my nuggets? I asked. Mom replied, "John is a growing boy. You, however, need to eat some vegetables, as you're getting a little chubby." How dare she? I wasn't even fat. In fact, I'm so skinny, I could be a model. If anyone needed to watch their weight, it was her, not me. She was the one squeezing herself into her old pair of skinny jeans. So I grabbed my plate of broccoli and threw it in the trash. Mom got up and said, "Fine, go hungry. See if I care. And you can clean up after yourself from now on." I yelled back, "Ridiculous! There's nothing in my stomach and you're giving me chores? Is this child abuse?" But then my dad startled us by slamming his fist on the table.
"That's enough! Both of you! Start acting like grown-ups!"
We both muttered out sorry. Then Dad came up with his bonkers idea.
"Okay, so if you two cannot live in harmony, why don't you trade places?"
Mom and I were kind of confused. "What do you mean?" I said to him.
"Well, it's simple. Heaven, you'll switch places with Mom and do the housework, shopping, making dinner, and taking care of John, and so on. While Ariana,"
he looked at Mom,
"you'll relive your teenage years and go to school. Let's say for 2 days."
Mom looked thrilled at the prospect of being me. As for me, I wasn't convinced. I mean, who likes doing chores? Besides, tomorrow at school was class picnic day, which meant no classes, lots of tasty food, and plenty of time to stare at cute boys. But Mom seemed so excited at the idea of being me, so I decided I could take advantage of this. "Does this mean I don't have to follow any stupid rules?" I asked, and Mom and Dad nodded in agreement. "Okay then, all the strict rules are gone."
"Does this mean I can eat chocolate in bed?"
John asked. I grinned. "You betcha!" Mom just shrugged and said, "It's okay, Mom. Now I have to prepare stuff for my picnic." And she excitedly ran upstairs. This would be a breeze, right? I mean, how hard could being Mom actually be? The next morning, John woke me up extra early and insisted I make him breakfast. Yawn. While I was pouring cereal into a bowl for him, Mom appeared. She was wearing her hat backwards. Geez, someone seriously needed to tell her it wasn't the 90s anymore. "Have fun, Ariana." I winked at her. "You too, Mom." She winked back. I watched her through the window. As she got on the school bus, she turned to me and did the peace out sign. Geez, could she be any more uncool? Whatever, she could be as cringy as she wanted. I didn't care, as I had the whole day at home alone. Or at least, until I had to pick up my bro from school. I didn't bother loading up the dishwasher, and I sidestepped past the massive pile of laundry and decided to spend the morning on the couch watching a chick flick and painting my nails. This was the life. A few hours passed, and I was so bored and hungry, so I went into the kitchen to look for food. But the cupboards were empty. Then I noticed a shopping list and some money on the counter. Reluctantly, I walked to the local store, but I ignored the list and bought lots of snacks. Hey, I was Mom, so I made the rules. In the end, I found myself so bored that I actually ended up doing the laundry. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I threw everything into the machine, fiddled with the dial, and hoped for the best. Then my phone rang. It was Clara. So I answered and she said, "Hey, why is your mom here instead of you?" I told her about the switch up, then asked her what my mom was up to. She was quiet for a second, then said, well, she's definitely enjoying the picnic. In fact, she's showing Mrs. Puller her dabbing skills." What? My mom was dabbing? Which no one did anymore. And in front of our ancient science teacher? Was she trying to humiliate me? Whatever, my mom could get on with it. I had house chores to do. Geez, what's with chores? They seriously never seem to end. By the end of the day, I was so exhausted that I ordered takeout for everyone, then slumped in front of the TV. I finally had the option to stay out late, but I didn't have the energy to do it. Then, the next day, when I was doing yet more house chores, my friend Patrick sent me a photo. It was Mom. She was wearing a cheerleader's outfit that exposed her midriff. What? She was just at a casual football match. No one dressed up for that. Then Patrick sent me another picture. In it, Mom was fiddling with her hair and touching some jock's shoulder. OMG. Was she trying to flirt with him? Whatever. I didn't have time for this. I had to go pick John up from school, then go to the grocery store to get supplies for dinner. We arrived home to find Mom slumped on the couch, surrounded by empty wrappers and cans. On seeing me, she said, "Oh, you're back." I told John to go to his room, then I stormed over to Mom and said, "What's with all this mess? Clean it up." She just smirked at me and said, "Nah, you never clean it up, so why should I? After all, we have switched places, remember?" She finished her beer, then burped loudly before she threw the can at my feet, then walked off. This was so annoying. I'd already tidied the living room once today, and now I had to do it again. My mom was so unfair. Then, when I finally managed to grab 5 minutes to relax with a hot chocolate, loud thudding sounds were coming from upstairs. It was her music. It was so loud, it made the ceiling shake. Geez, she was so annoying. Then suddenly, it dawned on me. This was how I acted. Mom was just being me. So, okay, I guess I was a little harsh at times. I suppose being Mom wasn't as easy as it looks. So I decided to make amends by making a delicious dinner. But there was one problem. I can't cook. In fact, the last time I tried to cook, I set the crepes and the pan on fire. So, for safety purposes, I asked Clara and Patrick to help me. They had cooking class, so they knew what to do. We created a feast of barbecue ribs, burgers, cornbread, salad, grape punch, and for dessert, a chocolate lava cake and blueberry pie. I swear they looked so good, I wanted to drool all over them. Mom came downstairs chewing her gum and scrolling through her phone, but then she looked at the food and stuttered, How did you make all of this? Not even I could make this many meals." I just shrugged and said, "I had a little help from my friends. No biggie." Then I stopped in front of Mom and said, "I'm sorry that I've been a bad daughter. I know you do a lot for me, and I promise I'll be better from now on." Mom started crying and said, "I'm sorry too. I know it isn't easy being your age. I can't keep up with the trends. I thought dabbing was popular. Anyway, from now on, I'll be fair to you, and we'll have fun together." After that, we hugged it out. Then my dad stood up and said, "Well, now anyone want to trade places with me?" John immediately raised his hand, and all could see his eyes light up. Soon, we all burst out laughing, thinking about one day John will go to work and talk about dinosaurs at the meetings. Meanwhile, my dad is building a Lego castle for John's kindergarten girlfriend. My family is now happier than ever. It's all thanks to my dad's crazy idea. You should never disrespect your parents, otherwise you might just find yourself living in their shoes. Literally. And trust me, I'll take strict rules and being nagging parents any day if the alternative is grocery shopping and house chores. Ugh! Sometimes in life, we do things we might not be proud of, but honestly, if I had to go back and do it all again, I wouldn't change a thing. please listen to my story and let me know if you think I did the right thing. It's been a crazy ride. I'm Delilah, and I grew up as an orphan. When I was only 5 years old, my parents were arrested as they belonged to some kind of mafia. I didn't have any relatives, so I was sent to an orphanage. I was too young to really understand it all. I just thought my parents were so busy with work, they didn't have time to take care of me. But later, I understood that my parents were bad people, and that they'd often hit me and even starved me whenever I was naughty. Over the next 4 years, I was adopted by 3 different families. The first 2 didn't end so well, so they sent me back. But the third family was really nice. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on our side, though. There was a car accident. I was lucky enough to survive, but my adoptive parents didn't make it. I was devastated and got sent back to the orphanage. I didn't understand why I was so unlucky. It really felt like the universe was punishing me. Years passed by and no other families adopted me. So as soon as I turned 18, I left and decided to start on my own. But it wasn't easy. I'd had no real education and I couldn't find a decent job. I did a lot of random jobs, like pizza deliveries, handing out flyers on the streets, and working in a supermarket for a bit too. The money was never enough, though. I hate to admit this, but sometimes I stole groceries from work. However, one time I got caught, and of course, they fired me. That sucked. How would I be able to make it to tomorrow with $2 in my wallet now? I vented out with my coworker Casey about how miserable my life would be without that job. Then Casey just smirked at me and said she knew another way I could make some money. She said it was just a one-time thing and it would be risky, but the money would be enough to last me for years. I was eager to hear more, but you won't believe what it was. The job was to kidnap the daughter of a rich family and then demand ransom. Casey said all I had to do was take care of the kid for a few days in an abandoned warehouse, and when the parents paid the ransom, they'd send the kid back, and I'd be free to go with all the money. I mean, it sounded easy, right? It's not like I was actually kidnapping her. I was just taking care of her for a few days. More like a babysitter. So nothing could go wrong, right? The little girl was called Lisa, and she was just 2 years old. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Taylor, were well known, and they were stinkin' rich. The plan was actually so simple. Every Sunday, her nanny took her to the playground, and so that's where she'd be kidnapped from. You're probably wondering if it worked out. Well, I'm not in jail right now, so there you have it. I was waiting in the warehouse, and they delivered Lisa to me. Now, all we have to do is wait. The warehouse was pretty shabby, but it had enough to survive. And at first, Lisa cried a lot, and I seriously couldn't get her to stop. I tried playing her Baby Shark on YouTube. Believe it or not, it worked, and she stopped immediately. Later that night, though, Casey called and said Lisa's parents refused to pay and that the police were involved. Oh my gosh! So now what? They couldn't just leave me here with this random kid. The only option Casey could think of was that me and Lisa should hide out at Casey's grandparents' farm for a couple of years. That's when the case died down and everyone had forgotten about it. We could just leave Lisa outside a police station. This was insane! But what choice did I have? Lisa's face was now plastered on every newspaper and webpage. Also, not to mention the fact I knew nothing about raising a kid. What a disaster! But hey, at least I'd get to move to a farm. So the next morning, Casey's cousin, who drives vegetables from the farm to the city, picked us up and drove us safely to the farm. It was perfect, because Casey's grandparents didn't own a TV or the internet, so they knew nothing about the missing kid. Casey told them I was a single mom and had nowhere else to live, so they warmly welcomed us and said in return I could help them out on the farm. Those first few weeks were torture. Lisa was so naughty. Every time I fed her, she'd throw her food around. And once, she threw a hot bowl of soup over my head. After that, I was tempted to let her starve. I couldn't handle it. To be honest, I hated her. I regretted so bad getting involved in this mess every time I saw her face. But then one night, she was lying on the bed and I was impressed. She'd finally chilled out.
I went to wake her up to take her down for dinner, and she was on fire. I started panicking and went to find a thermometer, and her temp was 39 degrees Celsius. I had to get her fever down. I asked Casey's grandparents to help me buy some medicine for her. I was seriously panicking because she was shaking now. I just picked her up and held her in my arms, and I realized I would protect this little girl no matter what. She looked so innocent, and I actually felt my heart open up to her. We must have fallen asleep because I suddenly woke up an hour or so later and was relieved to see her body temp was back to normal. After that, I felt closer to Lisa. And honestly, she was pretty cute. Soon, I was sewing her little dresses and cooking her favorite foods. We actually had so much in common. We both loved mac and cheese, hated carrots, and were addicted to chocolate. Pretty soon, a year had flown by, and Lisa was starting to speak. And then she started to sing. And oh man, she's the most adorable thing on earth. Then one day, she turned to me and said, "Mama." I almost cried. I felt so happy, but it wasn't right. I had to give her back to her parents. She didn't deserve to live a life away from them, like I had with my parents. So I did something crazy. I saw Lisa's parents were looking for a part-time maid, so I used a fake name and applied for the job. I wanted to see if it was safe to take Lisa back without getting caught, but it was immediately clear that something wasn't right. It was like they didn't even miss her. I mean, imagine if your child had been kidnapped. Surely you'd be crying a lot, right? This family was different. All they seemed to do was work. It was so easy to sneak around their house. They left for work at 9 a.m. every morning and would only come back at 7 p.m. The only one I had to be careful of was Mrs. Garcia, the housekeeper. One day, I was searching for Lisa's room to see if I could get some of her toys, but I couldn't find it anywhere. There wasn't a single room that looked like it belonged to a 2-year-old. Had they seriously already packed up her room? Just given up hope? So, I decided to search the basement, and jackpot! I found a box full of toys. But that's not the only thing that was there. There was a crumpled up photo, too. I got curious and unfolded it, and saw a little girl in the photo. I froze. That little girl wasn't Lisa. She was about 5 years old and looked familiar. It's like I've seen her before. Could it be? Is that me? But why did Lisa's parents have a photo of me? Suddenly, Mrs. Garcia appeared and said, "What are you doing down here? I knew there was something fishy about you. I'm going to call Mr. Taylor." She quickly took out her phone and was about to dial his number. I grabbed it from her, but oh man, this old lady was strong. We were fighting over her phone, and then she let it go. She looked shocked and pointed at me, then in a trembling voice said, You are Delilah, aren't you?" I was stunned. How did she know my real name? Oh God, she must have known I'd kidnapped Lisa. I was probably about to go to jail. But then she continued speaking, and I thought I was going to faint. Lisa's parents were also my biological parents, which made Lisa my sister. Mrs. Garcia had recognized me because she saw the scar on my arm, which she said I'd got from falling out of a tree. She'd worked for my family since before I was even born. But then she said something that shocked me even more. "Don't come back to this family, Delilah. Please, it's for your own good. If you stay, you'll be in danger like poor little Lisa. They didn't care about her at all. They often left her starving, and then she got kidnapped. They haven't even bothered to look for her. They're cruel and heartless, and all they care about is money. Having a kid was just part of the cover-up for them and their illegal business. I really hope Lisa is in a safe place now. Anything is better than this family." Oh my God. This was seriously crazy. After all these years, I'd finally found my parents. But deep down, I knew Mrs. Garcia was right. If Lisa and I came back, our lives would be hell. Before I left the room, I asked Mrs. Garcia one last question. Did my parents look for me when they got out of jail? Mrs. Garcia shook her head sadly. Let's be honest, though. I knew the answer before I even asked. So I went back to the farm and continued to take care of Lisa. Now that I knew she was my sister, I loved her even more and promised myself that I'd give her the life she deserved. It's been 10 years now, and we're doing great. Our parents did do a bit of searching for Lisa, but only for like a month. Then they gave up. Mrs. Garcia had been right. They didn't care about Lisa or me. When it felt safe, Lisa and I moved to Canada. I started to work in a few different places and even took some classes. Turns out, I have a passion for plants, and I can thank my time on the farm for that. So I opened a small plant shop, and the business is going so well. Lisa is my motivation. She's the reason I work so hard and keep fighting for our lives. And now we're happier than we've ever been. When Lisa turns 18, I'm going to tell her everything. But for now, I'll let her think our parents aren't evil people and that they're just busy working in another country. So, what do you think? Would you agree I did the right thing? I think I did.
Hi guys, I'm Alex. I'm a 24-year-old guy who's married to my high school sweetheart Ariel. Even though we haven't had kids yet, Ariel stays at home and I go to work. Sounds blissful, right? Wrong. You see, my once cute and loving wife is now a total grumpy control freak. Don't get me wrong, I still love her very much, but, well, who am I kidding? I'm just the henpecked husband who never dares to oppose her. No longer am I a free man. Instead, she insisted I follow her rules, and I swear she makes most of them up as she goes along. No going out with friends. No overnight trips away, even if they're work-related. Dinner is not allowed outside unless I take her with me. No talking to work colleagues on social media. I'm not even allowed to fall asleep first, else she wakes me up by yelling at me. If I dare to break those rules, then I have to face the consequences, and trust me, they weren't worth thinking about. For instance, I once stayed a little late at work, so the next day she made me moldy sandwiches. I didn't notice until I'd taken a big bite out of it. Ugh, gross. Another time I visited my parents after work without her, so she turned my white shirts pink. I had to go to work resembling the Pink Panther. And every day I come home from work to her endless complaints. She could moan on about the most ridiculous things, such as the puddle outside of our house meant she couldn't go for a walk, as she didn't want to ruin her shoes. And she'd accidentally drunk normal coffee instead of decaf, and now she had a headache, and it went on and on. Also, she's a real stalker. Yep, it seems all she does all day is spy on our neighbors. Did you know that the neighbor to the right of us walks around his yard in his wife's pink fluffy dressing gown and slippers? And the neighbor opposite sings Christmas tunes to her dog. Ugh, who cares? But if I dare yawn or show any sort of disinterest, she yells at me. So I feigned interest by saying things like, "Oh, is that so? Oh, right. Please go on." The nagging didn't stop when I was at work either, as she constantly texted me telling me to come home early to fix the light bulb, faucet, or whatever else she'd managed to break. Geez, why were there so many broken things lately? Was she deliberately ruining them so that I would rush home after work to fix them? No, that couldn't be possible, right? One time during work, she messaged me saying the washing machine was leaking everywhere and asked me to call a mechanic. I didn't understand why she couldn't call one herself, as I was at work. Anyway, I forgot to do it, so she called my work number and demanded I go home immediately. The problem was that my work colleague answered the phone. The poor lad actually had to hold the phone away from him as she was shrieking so loudly. "You broke it, so come home and fix it immediately." I grabbed the phone off my colleague and replied, "Huh? How is it my fault?" She replied, "Duh, because you wear 3 outfits in a day and I only wear 1, so you broke it, not me, so come and fix it." Yeah. I failed to see the logic in her argument. I just didn't know who she was anymore. Where had the lovely Ariel from the old days gone? Oh, how I longed to be single again. Then, when I thought things couldn't get any worse, they did. My workplace was celebrating its 10th anniversary, so my boss held a party and invited everyone and their families. Oh no. The last thing I needed was my controlling wife embarrassing me. But Ariel checked my emails and found out about the party. She immediately repeated her rule. "Dinner is not allowed outside unless you take me with you." I forced a smile and acted excited to have her joining me. Hope nothing happens, though. We'd been at the party all of 5 minutes, and I was politely smiling at my female colleague, when Ariel turned red with anger then spilled her wine over this woman's dress, said, "Oops," then walked off. I passed my colleague some napkins and apologized. Why was Ariel so childish? I didn't want to lose my job because of her jealous rages. Then I found her talking to my boss. She was actually shouting at him for making me work overtime too often. What? My boss was fuming. Now I was sure I would end up being fired. But thank God, through some miracle and a lot of groveling to my boss, I didn't lose my job. I was feeling so down about it all. So on one of my lunch breaks, I called my friend Matthew. I've known him for years. In fact, back in our school days, he had a huge crush on Ariel. And we both tried to win her heart. Anyway, that's in the past. I needed to vent, so I said to him, "Back at school, you and I both frantically chased Ariel. We even fought for her. Back then I thought I'd won, but now I think you're the one who had the lucky escape." Matthew replied, "Do you know why your married life is so stuffy? It's because she loves you too much. If you need more freedom, it's so easy. You just need to make your wife love you less. Don't worry, I'm here to help." At this point, I was pretty much willing to try anything. Besides, he was my friend, so he had my back, right? So the plan was to find Ariel a demanding job in another town. Then I'd only have to see her on weekends. So I asked my old friend to let Ariel work as a newscaster on his about-to-be bankrupt radio station. Ariel was so excited when she got the job offer. She begged me to quit my job and to go with her, but I disagreed. I made excuses that my job was too good to quit and encouraged her that it was a good opportunity for her and that I would visit her on weekends. After that, the life I always longed for arrived. It was so blissful coming home from work and not having her nag me. I could put my feet on the couch, fall asleep whenever I wanted, and go out for dinner with my colleagues without having to take her along with me. But the house was quiet. Too quiet. Yes, it wasn't long before I found myself pining for her like a puppy. I even slept clutching one of her sweaters. Then it suddenly all made sense. Ariel had only acted that way because she was bored and lonely stuck at home all day. She longed to have me to talk to, and yet all I did was make fun of her. Ugh, I was a terrible husband. I'd been a foolish idiot, and I wanted my wife back, so, without delay, I bought the biggest bunch of flowers I could find and drove to Ariel's place in the other city. But when I pulled up outside, I saw her standing outside talking to someone. It was Matthew. That sneaky, conniving snake. Then I saw him take her hand. I stormed up to him and punched him in the face. Ariel panicked. "Alex, are you crazy? What the hell are you doing?" Then she checked Matthew's bleeding nose. I was furious, so I blurted out, "He's a liar. He told me to send you away just so he could worm his way into your life." She looked at me in surprise and stammered, "What? You sent me away? I earned this job and I chose this life." "No," I shook my head. "I set it all up. I'm sorry, I'm a fool." I was about to hug Ariel, but she pushed me away and said, "Are you bored with me? Why don't you... You're a coward." After that, Ariel ran into her house and locked the door. I begged her to hear me out, but she ignored me. I had no choice to drive home sad and alone. I went back to her house each day and tried apologizing, but she never answered the door. Each day I left her a gift on her doorstep, such as chocolate cake, penguin plushie as they're her favorite animal, and a picture of us together. She took the gifts, but she still wouldn't answer the door. But then one night when I was waiting in front of her house, I saw her running towards me. Could it be that she'd forgiven me and was coming to embrace me? Nah. A bandit was chasing after her and was trying to grab her handbag. I rushed forward and tackled this bandit to the ground. She was so relieved I was there to save the day, and she flung her arms around me. After that, she forgave me and moved back home. I definitely learned my lesson now. I should always appreciate the happiness I have, instead of taking it for granted. But I guess I will still have to live on the edge for the rest of my life. Afraid that someday Ariel will find out the big secret I'm keeping. Yeah, I'm the one who hired that bandit. Surprise! Those secrets will have to come to me to the grave. Or Ariel will bury me 6 feet under by herself. I don't know anymore. Wish me luck, guys. Do you believe in fate? Well, I never did. I'm a 21-year-old college student studying finance and banking. So, yeah, numbers are my forte. Therefore, I'm a logical thinker. Horoscopes and chance meetings? As if. But then I met someone who changed it all. I'm Kai, by the way, and let me tell you my story. It all started one evening while studying. I got a serious craving for some Cheetos, so I went out to get some. That's when I saw a petite girl shouting at 2 huge guys in the park. "Hey, Bigfoot, did you really just litter? Pick it up now or I'll give you a good going over." Oh man, did this girl have a death wish? And was she drunk? The two guys didn't look happy. They approached her, and one of them even raised his hand up like he was gonna hit her, but she quickly pushed his hand away, which only made him madder. Man, I didn't want to get involved in this. So I pretended I hadn't seen them and walked off. But then I was just a few steps away, I heard one of the guys scream, and the other guy said, "What the? Gross!" I could have just carried on walking, but nope, my curiosity got the better of me. So I turned around and saw that one guy was covered in vomit. Then the girl pointed at me and said, "Honey, there you are." Then she fainted. Huh? I didn't know her. I was staring at them, looking perplexed, when one of the dudes yelled, "Why are you still standing there? Quickly take your crazy girlfriend home if you don't want to taste my fist." I was so scared I hurried over and carried this girl off. I had no idea who she was or where she lived. This was crazy. I placed her down on a nearby bench and looked around for those guys, but luckily they'd gone. I didn't know what to do, so I left her there and walked off. But then I started to feel bad. Was I too heartless? What if something else happened to her? So I went back and gave the girl a piggyback ride back to my house. Jeez, she was so much heavier than she looked. As soon as I dropped her onto the couch, her phone rang, so I answered it. "Hello?" Then the person on the other end of the line asked, "Who are you? Where's my friend?" I muttered out my address and was about to tell her to come pick up her friend, but she already hung up. Why was she so rude? I'd almost bust my back carrying her friend to safety. How annoying. This night has been far too dramatic for me, and worse still, I didn't have any Cheetos. I decided to take a shower, then get some sleep. But as soon as I stepped out of the bathroom, the doorbell rang. I presumed it must be the girl's friend, so I answered the door. Then two cops immediately pushed me against the wall and handcuffed me. Before I could fathom what was happening, one of them said kidnap and assault accusations had been made against me, and I was escorted to the station. What? I tried to explain what happened, but they wouldn't listen to me. That night, as I sat in the cold, uninviting cell, I found myself regretting my kindness. I didn't sleep a wink. I just hoped the next morning came quickly so that I could confront that girl about this false accusation. But before I could do that, the cops released me at dawn. The girl had sobered up and told them it was all just a misunderstanding. Well, luckily, she still remembered a bit, or else I didn't dare to imagine it anymore. I swore I would never get involved with anyone in need ever again. No good deed goes unpunished, for real. A few days later, when I was watching TV, someone knocked on my door, and you wouldn't believe it. It's the drunk girl. I looked at her suspiciously. "What are you doing here?" The girl didn't say anything. Instead, she coldly slipped past me and entered my house. Huh? What was she playing at? Then she glared at me and asked me about that night. After I told her everything that happened, she laughed. "Okay, I believe you. If I didn't, you'd know about it." She held her fist in front of me. I startled and almost fell off my chair. Then she chuckled. "Now I'm hungry. Go make your guests some food." What was with this girl? She was so direct and bold. I glanced at her and said no, but she continued. "If you don't, I'll go to the cops and change my statement." Then she got up to leave, so I quickly said, Okay, fine. Then reluctantly searched my cupboards for food. Trusted spaghetti, how you never fail me. So I prepared bolognese for us. While she was eating, she said, "I'm Nora, by the way, the best screenplay writer major in the country." She winked. She thanked me for the food, then left. Phew, that'd be it now, surely. Nope, turns out this was just the beginning. The next morning, she texted me, "Come pick me up for college ASAP, else I'm calling the cops." Was she being serious? Then she sent me another message with her address and told me to hurry up. I rushed over there and she got into my car, glared at me, and said, "You're late." And that's how I somehow became this Nora girl's servant. Her calls and messages could come at any time, and she would always force me to do things for her straight away. One time I was soaking in the bath when she texted and demanded I bring her some chocolate. Another time she called me at 2 a.m. and told me she was bored, so I had to come over and play some video games with her. I also became her unpaid Uber driver. Every day, from home to school and back, and it's inevitable that I overslept once, so Nora bombarded my phone with tons of texts and calls. I groggily answered, and she used her calling the cops threat again to force me to get there in 15 minutes. What a pain in the neck. Another time, I just stepped out of the house to go and hang out with my friends when Nora showed up and insisted that I had to take her to the cinema. She wouldn't take no for an answer, so I had to cancel on my friends and go watch some bland movie with her. Such a troublesome girl, right? But strangely, as time went by, I started to find Nora less annoying, and instead found myself smiling when she texted me or called. On the days when she didn't bother me, well, my mood seemed to dampen. Was I crazy? I mean, she was cute, very spontaneous, and, well, there was no one else quite like her. But then all of a sudden the messages and calls stopped. Did she not want me around anymore? I miss Nora. Many times I had to stop myself from calling her. I should be happy I was out of Nora's control, right? Then one day out of the blue, my phone beeped. It was Nora. Come to the Starbucks on Vincent Street. Move it. You have 5 minutes. Geez, that bossy tone again. Still, I immediately drove to the address. When I got there, I saw Nora with a guy and a girl. I walked over to them and just sat down. Nora held my arm. Honey, why are you so late? I stared at her in surprise. She smiled and turned to the other two. This is Kai, my boyfriend. What? Did I get it wrong? Did she just say I was her boyfriend? Then she said, Kai, this is my former bestie Kim and her boyfriend Greg, who's also my ex. Awkward, right? But I have you now, so we can all be friends. Reading the situation, I realized I had to go along with it. So I stroked her hair and said, yes, my honey muffin, anything you want. My cheesy lines seemed to work, as they both looked annoyed, then left. So I turned to look at Nora and stammered. Did you just say I'm your boyfriend? Nora said nonchalantly, yeah, isn't that okay? If you don't like it, forget it. Then she was about to leave. I pulled her hand and said, yes, of course, sounds great. So that's how we became an official couple. We went on a few dates, and she was her usual demanding self. Not that I'd want her any other way. Then one time, after a month of dating, Nora dragged me to a Swan Lake in a nearby park. She looked at me for a long time and then said, Kai, I'm studying abroad for a year. I leave tomorrow. I glared at her in surprise and asked why she hadn't told me sooner. She continued, I guess I didn't want to make you sad, and I don't know if your feelings are big enough, so write down your feelings for me and give them to me tomorrow. That night, I carefully wrote down all my thoughts and feelings for her. I still had hope that this 1 year of long-distance love would be over quickly. The next day, I drove her to the airport and handed her my letter. To my surprise, Nora also gave me a letter and told me over and over that I could only read it when I got home. Of course, I obeyed her. Then read it as soon as I passed my door, and whoa, I wasn't expecting this. In it, Nora confessed all this time she was just using me to get revenge on her ex, and took advantage of me to get over him. That night we had first met, she found out about him and Kim, but now she regretted how she treated me. At the end of the letter, she wrote, if fate wants us to be together, then we'll meet again one day. What? I was so shocked, so I called to tell her she didn't need to feel guilty and that I forgave her. I kept calling, but it didn't work. I also asked her friends, but no one knew how to reach her. She disappeared from all social media, and just like that, she vanished from my life. I missed Nora so much and found myself hoping that fate would reunite me with her someday. Then one time while I was surfing YouTube, this web drama called My Destiny Is Yours caught my eyes. Curious, I decided to check it out. And I watched wide-eyed as my story with Nora played out in front of me through each episode. This definitely was written by Nora. But how would she end it? It stopped at the part where the girl left and cut off all contact with the guy. An announcement popped up on the screen. The finale was launching at 9 p.m. tonight. I anxiously watched the seconds tick by. During the last episode, the two characters met up at a Swan Lake. I had a hunch, so without a second delay, I immediately ran to the Swan Lake in the nearby park. My heart flipped when I saw a girl standing there. It was Nora. Man, I ran so fast and hugged her. She hugged me back, then said, I was a little nervous you wouldn't see the movie. Then she smirked. But it doesn't matter anyway. I could have just texted you, come to the Swan Lake now, and you would have come, right? Then we both burst out laughing and continued to hug each other. Well, you see, fate brought me and Nora together, and this logic-loving skeptic is now a big believer in destiny. How about you? Have you found your destiny yet? Hi, Jared here. I just had a narrow escape from death, as my friend had tried to cut my abdomen open and take things in my belly. You can see that I'm still alive to tell you this story, but honestly, it took time for me to feel all there again. I'm not sure if I'm introverted or extroverted. I love making friends, but I do it much better through social media. As you can see, I was scrolling my newsfeed and dropped likes instead of hanging out on the weekend. That was when a post on my favorite travel page caught my eyes. Some girl raised her point of how stupid and reckless people were, thinking they were cool and somehow better than others to go backpacking solo, and added that they better save money and be more responsible by experiencing package tours. Oh yeah? She's a package tour seller or what? I immediately jumped to comment, Ha! Which I would never do in real life. Telling how short-sighted, childish, cowardliness, and poor she was. Of course, my words hit likes. Then a guy even sent me a friend request and started chatting with me about his same feelings, and right away we hit it off. His name was Travis, a 31-year-old guy living in the Northwest, close to Portland. Pretty soon we were chatting every day. I always found the best secret camping spots in my home of Arizona, and he also shared his tons of experiences of camping, trekking, and solo adventuring. So crazy! This could be a Netflix new series, How I Met My Soulmate. As summer vacation was coming up, Travis invited me to Oregon a number of times, but I still hesitated to put Portland in my summer bucket list. My final summer as a student must be an unforgettable experience. Travis got my mind and said he was organizing a small music festival with some friends up in Portland, and he'd love for me to join. Seeing as I played guitar, I jumped at the chance and said yes, without even thinking about it. Could it get even cooler? Yes! The festival was going to finance my whole journey. It's a hell of a risk. You don't even know this guy. What kind of online friend who pays for your plane ticket and your hotel and even all your food? Is he interested in you in that way? Oh man, my old boring skeptical parents could never see the bright side of this world. I'm 17, and I was absolutely not that dumb. When I was walking out of the Portland airport terminal, I could recognize Travis right away. He and the girl he was holding must be his little daughter, Anna. They were both waving at me excitedly, and my heart melted for this cute moment. We greeted each other like we were old friends, and his daughter couldn't stop chatting to me. I instantly felt more at ease. They would make my experience memorable. Along the way to the city, Travis told me a lot about the upcoming festival, and despite my best efforts not to show my naivety, I couldn't control my childish excitement. Wow, Travis, the show's gonna be epic. My parents can finally see how amazing I am. Oh, Anna, are you excited to see your hero daddy burning the stage tomorrow? Right away, I could see her sad eyes. I can't be there. You have an important appointment with your doctor, don't you remember? Travis then turned to me. Anna has kidney disease, so the place is too dangerous for her. Oh, Jared, don't let it affect your mood. Tomorrow will tell if she can have a kidney transplant. Wish you the best, I said. I will play for her tomorrow. Travis dropped me at my hotel and said he'd come back to pick me up at 7 p.m. for dinner. I had the whole day, but not wanting time to rest, I immediately went out to explore. I went straight to the Portland Japanese Garden, which was incredible. Then I went to the Portland Zoo. Afterwards, I popped into the souvenir shop at the zoo and got my parents a gift. I saw a small vase that I knew my mom would love, but as I reached out for it, someone else was going for it too on the other side of the shelf. I looked up and was surprised to see a gorgeous girl standing there. Unfortunately, that vase was one of a kind. How ironic. Yet I still gave it to her because, what can I say? I'm a gentleman. However, once I'd left the shop, she came running after me. Hey, wait, I have something for you. I turned around, and to my surprise, she handed me the vase. I guess you're a tourist, aren't you? Please keep it. I can easily find the other one for me. Aw, what a sweet girl. Really? I can't be more grateful. Would you like to join me for, a coffee? I'd love to. Sorry, but I have to get back to work. Hope you have a great time in Portland. She ran away before I could say goodbye. Wow, Portland locals are the best. Then I thought maybe I'd even go to college in Portland instead of Arizona. I loved it here. After that, I went back to the hotel to get ready. And at 7 p.m. on the dot, Travis picked me up and we went to a buffet restaurant. Before getting our table, Travis asked me if I'd like a drink and said the ginger beer was great. Sure, why not? I said I'd have one of those and he went off to the bar. He was right. It was great. And so was the food. It was delicious. And I must have eaten about 4 platefuls before I suddenly felt a bit sick. Oh, something's not right. I looked down and realized there was a shrimp in one of the salads. Oh no, I had a shrimp allergy. Without saying anything, I jumped up, ran to the toilet, and tried to throw up all the food and ginger beer. I was glad this was a buffet restaurant with unlimited food, so I could have a fresh start. Getting back to the table, I could see Travis was nervously peering over me. I was about to come to him and say I was fine, but suddenly my head was dizzy. I fell onto the floor, and then everything just went black. When I opened my eyes, there was a bright light shining directly onto me. Huh? Where was I? I tried to get up, but realized I couldn't. Oh my God, my limbs were tied to the bed. Was this even called a bed? I looked around, but I couldn't see anyone. That's when I realized I was in some kind of operating room. Although it was too dirty to be a hospital. There were some ancient-looking instruments on a dusty shelf. Everything looked old and rusted. I had to get out of there. I tried to wiggle my feet, but they were tied up too tight. Who had done this? Suddenly, someone walked into the room. It was Travis. Walking behind him were two other guys wearing surgical clothes. "Travis, what's going on?" "I'm totally fine, just a normal allergic reaction. Let me out." Travis looked surprised to see me awake. "Oh, I thought you'd be out cold for hours. I should have given you more anesthetic in that ginger beer." Then he turned to the doctor-looking guy and said, "Chad, give him more anesthetic, would you?" "Wait, what do you want? You can have all my money and stuff. I won't tell anyone." He started walking toward me with a sinister grin on his face. "You shouldn't have woken up yet. Since you've seen us, there's only one way to clean up the mess." He reached out to me with a syringe and I started screaming, "Let me go! Let me go!" But he was obviously not about to stop. "Come on, or you want to see your belly being disemboweled?" "What? So they were trying to rip open my belly? Gutting me like a fish?" I tried to struggle so he couldn't inject. The iron bed was shaking hard. Yes, till my last breath. Suddenly the door burst out and the police rushed in. Was this just a flash before I died? "Stop, you're under arrest!" Their shouting brought me back to reality. They grabbed Travis and the other two doctor guys and handcuffed them, while another untied me. I was taken outside and they helped me into a police car. My soul hadn't been back to my body yet, but when I looked to my left, I panicked. The girl from the souvenir shop was sitting next to me. "Oh my mother, what are you doing here?" She put her hand on my arm and said, "A horrible night, isn't it? I'm actually an undercover cop, and I've been investigating an organ trafficking line. That guy Travis, who has pretended to be your friend, is actually part of the line. Not everyone was as lucky as you, Jared. So many teenagers has been set up." Then she told me what happened. Turns out she followed Travis and was surprised to see him picking me up and went to the restaurant. She followed Travis when he went to the bar and saw him drop something into my drink. "That's when I saw you'd fainted. Everyone gathered around, but Travis said you were just drunk and took you away. I followed him and called the police," she said. "Oh, no. What the hell was I stuck in? This is insane. I could have lost my kidneys or something. I'd even have died." "Yes, we might not have made it without your own strong effort to lengthen the time." "But how come you didn't feel the effects of the anesthetic?" she asked. I thought back and realized. And oh, I had to laugh. It was the shrimp who saved me. I'd made myself throw up and vomited most of the anesthetic. If it hadn't been for the shrimp, who knows what might have happened. I don't even want to think about it. What a close shave. Not in a million years did I ever think I'd get mixed up in something dangerous like this. This time I will let my skeptical mom and dad say, "I told you" 1,000,000 times. We have to be careful, especially when it comes to our kidneys. Maybe package tours aren't so bad after all, right?
I've never liked hospitals. Yeah, I get it. No one really does. Yet here I was sitting in the hospital waiting area, silently praying that she would be all right. Geez, I was shaking like an old dog left out in the cold. I just couldn't think straight. Why was no one telling me if she would be okay? Suddenly, a stern-faced doctor appeared and told me, "Sir, the operation was a success. Your sister will be just fine. You can go through and see her now." I didn't know whether to burst into tears because of relief or to run away because of fear. Finally, I still went to see her. She blinked open her eyes, then fixed them on me, and in a groggy voice said, "Who are you?" I get it. My appearance unnerves people. I've never been a looker, and this scar sure doesn't help. But people will always judge. Maybe if they stop to talk to me, then I can tell them that I'm a military veteran who got it due to an accident during training. Training I was doing so I could fight to save their butts. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Now, talking about the girl in the hospital, let me continue my story. Well, it began with my evening shift as a delivery driver. I was humming along to the radio when this girl came out of nowhere and ran straight into the middle of the road. I slammed on my brakes, but it was too late. I heard a thud. She was lying there all limp. It was horrible. For a moment I thought she was dead and I was too scared to check on her. Suddenly a thought of abandoning her popped up in my mind. But no, I couldn't be that heartless, so I ran to check her pulse. Phew, she was still alive. I called for an ambulance and told her help was on the way. In the hospital, the doctor said she needed emergency surgery, but they had to have a relative's consent first. The girl had no ID on her or anything. What was I meant to do? I couldn't just sit there and let her die. So I blurted out, "I give my permission. I'm her brother." When the girl asked me who I was, well, I had no idea how to reply. The doctor concluded that she must have memory loss. So, who are you? The girl asked me again. I couldn't go changing my story now, so I replied, I'm Chelvin, your brother. Oh, hi, Chelvin. I'm sorry. I don't remember you. This girl seemed so sweet. I instantly warmed to her. It's been just me and my dog Buster for I don't know how many years. Girls usually take one look at me and run away as fast as their heeled shoes can take them. But this girl wasn't looking at me like they did. The doctors asked me what her name was, so I said Alice. That was my mother's name. Before I even knew what I was doing, I'd used my savings to pay for her hospital fees. Then I visited her every day. I thought she'd ask me about her family, friends, I don't know, everything. But nope. She just liked listening to me ramble on, mainly about Buster. When she was ready to leave the hospital, I took her back to my house. I made up the spare room and bought some new bed covers, laid some clothes out on the bed, and put some flowers in there to make it look nice. Alice seemed to like it. She smiled, told me I was sweet, then hugged me. I bet I was blushing like a beetroot. I left her there to get ready. Then I made a start on dinner. She came downstairs in this dress I'd bought at the mall for her, and oh my days, she looked like a picture. I made an excuse to go and get her a drink, so she wouldn't see how flustered I was. I thought she'd ask me stuff about her life, but she didn't. Not one question. So I decided to tell her anyway. I mean, I'd spent days making the backstory up, so I may as well share it with her. It's just you and me now, and it has been that way for a long time. Our parents passed away some years ago now. Our mom, she was called Alice too. Oh, it's a nice name, she muttered back. Do I look like her? Yes, you have her hair. I told her a few other things, such as how she'd just broken up with her boyfriend and was in between homes at the moment. I know it sounds crazy, but it's like she was soaking my words in and taking some comfort from them. The next day, things changed, and Alice started doing erratic things. I went downstairs bright and early to find that she'd emptied all of my kitchen cupboards and was scrubbing them clean. When I asked her what she was doing, she ignored me and carried on. It's like she was in her own bubble and couldn't hear me at all. I told myself this was probably just her way of adjusting to everything. But then her odd behavior continued. When a delivery guy knocked on the door, she leaped behind the couch. Afterward, I asked her what was up. But she said she was just looking for her lost earring. Another time, I was waiting for my favorite TV show to start, and we were both chatting on the couch, but she suddenly grabbed the TV remote, turned it off, then walked out of the room with the remote. This was normal, right? She'd been through a lot. Maybe this was a stage of her recovery? Most of the time, she was such a sweet and lovely girl. She always packed food and snacks for me to take to work, and she made such a fuss of Buster. Okay, so she still did her cupboard cleaning ritual every single morning, but hey, we all have our quirks. Having another mouth to feed meant I had to work more hours, but I didn't mind it. For once, I felt like a purpose. She helped me find the reason to live again, instead of just existing. I often took her treats home, such as cookies or Hawaiian pizza, her favorites. If I was working night shifts, she always waited up for me. It made me feel so warm inside when I arrived home and saw her sitting there with Buster. I had no money left at the end of each month, but I had something more. I had happiness. I liked this girl. I more than liked her, but I couldn't tell her this, as she thought I was her brother. I knew I needed to tell her the truth, but I just didn't know how to go about doing so. One morning, after she'd finished her cupboard cleaning and we were enjoying breakfast, I told her about the job I had on, delivering a parcel to Sherry Hill Street. Her eyes widened. Then she told me she wanted to come too. This was surprising, as she'd shown no interest in leaving the house before. I mean, she refused to even take Buster for a walk, but I agreed without questioning her. I told her to wait in the lorry while I delivered the parcel. Only when I got back, she wasn't there. I ran around the block searching for her. But then I saw a crowd and it seemed like there's a car accident. My face paled. I ran as fast as I could to see who the victim was, and luckily it wasn't her. Phew. I kept looking around and finally I found her. She was sitting on the curb with her head in her hands. She was crying. I sat down next to her and hugged her. She might be too scared witnessing the terrible accident. Then, when she was ready, I took her home. The next morning, I went downstairs expecting to see her cleaning the cupboards, but she wasn't there. I made her some toast and a coffee and took them up to her room. She opened the door, glared at me, then said, "I remember everything. I know you're not my brother. Alice, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to help you." She shouted at me, "My name's not even Alice!" Then she stormed past me. I rushed after her and heard the door bang shut. She'd gone. So that's it. I was back to my lonely, sad life. Each day after work, I came home to see no one waiting for me. No hot meals, no laugh, nothing but a boring, empty house. 3 months went by, and one day I was delivering some boxes to this rich shop owner guy. The boxes were very heavy, and one of them fell out of my arms and hit the floor. The shop guy started yelling at me, "You idiot! I'm not paying you to be neglectful." But then what do I expect? You can't even look after your own face. I didn't say anything. Instead, I peered down at my feet. Then I heard footsteps, so I looked up and there she was. It was Alice. Oh no, I didn't want her to see me being scorned at like this. Suddenly, she shouted at the man, "Hey, just because you have money doesn't mean you can say anything to others. Apologize to him or I will not let up on you." The man sneered and told her to go away. I couldn't deal with this, so I walked away. But Alice rushed after me and called out to me, "Please, Chelvin, let me tell you the truth." I stopped walking, and that's when she told me everything. It turns out she'd never lost her memory. She faked it because she wanted to escape her miserable life. Her husband was a cruel man who cheated on her, beat her, and controlled her. He was a famous TV presenter, which is why she turned off the TV that time, as she'd seen him on there. She hid when the doorbell rang, as she was terrified it'd be him, and she tidied the cupboard every morning out of habit, as if she didn't do it back home, he would beat her. What? This was crazy. I needed answers. So I asked her, "So you faked regaining your memories? And that outburst, it was all a lie?" "Chelvin, I'm so sorry. I knew I couldn't drag you into my personal life anymore. I used to live in Sherry Hill Street. That's why I came with you. I found out my husband thought I was dead, so he married another woman. I made him sign the divorce papers and set me free. I also made him give me a payout, else I'd ruin his precious career." Then she handed me some money and told me it was to cover the expenses for when she was living with me, and that she'd also send me some money to cover her hospital fees. We hugged, and I cried like a baby. Gee, this was all too much for me. But then, to my surprise, she grinned, went to shake my hand, then said, "Hey, I'm Julia. It's a pleasure to meet you." So, after that, thanks to her ex, Julia was able to buy a nice little house. Actually, I'm helping her renovate it. We've become pretty great friends. To be honest, just looking at her makes my stomach flip. I love her so much. I know I need to tell her. Life's far too short not to. If she says no, well, then at least I'll still have her friendship, right? I might not have model looks, but I'm a good person. Julia's taught me to realize that. I hope she says yes, but what will be, will be. Wish me luck.